Most e-commerce brands are losing 70% of their abandoned cart revenue either because they're not sending abandonment emails at all, or they're sending generic, low-effort emails that ultimately just get ignored. Now in 2025, my team and I built 114 abandoned cart flows for 7- and 8-figure brands. And in that time, I've learned that a high converting abandoned cart flow can outperform a basic one by 50 to 70%, sometimes more. Now in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can build an abandoned cart flow that actually recovers revenue. Okay, so the first thing, and honestly, the most important thing here, is to get the setup triggers and flow filters set up properly. The amount of brands and honestly, the amount of agencies that I see set this up wrong is staggering. So start here first. Now I'm gonna show you exactly how to do this in Klaviyo, but let's start here. The trigger you wanna use is checkout started. There is a difference between the added to cart trigger and the checkout started trigger. So if you're looking at creating something in Klaviyo, let me just share my screen here. So if you're looking at creating one in Klaviyo and if you search for cart, you're gonna see Shopify added to cart trigger. So this actually used to be the same in Klaviyo for whatever reason, but they've changed it now, which is great. So if you search for cart, that's what's going to show up. If you search for checkout, then you'll find the right one, right? These are going to be set up. If you could click on this, the correct trigger is going to be checkout started. That's the first thing. Now, the big differentiator here is obviously checkout started is on the checkout page. So once someone hits that page on Shopify, it's the page where you have the email and then you have that little button that says, do you want to opt in? And then you have all of your details about shipping and credit card and all of that kind of thing. That is higher intent than someone who just hits a cart page. So that's really, really important. The flow filter you're going to want to add on, I'm going to go ahead and just create this and use this as a segment. You're going to want a couple of different flow filters, but the main thing you're going to want to have is a filter to make sure people aren't getting added into this multiple times, right? So once you go in here, they'll probably set you up with something here, placed order 0 times since starting the flow. That is one of the filters that you're going to want to add on. So the other filter was actually just moved to right here. So it's a re-entry criteria. And basically what you're going to want to select here is going to depend on how aggressive you want to be here. Usually what I'd recommend is at least 7 or 14 or 30 days, depending on how aggressively you're sending campaigns and what you're selling as well. So you're going to want to say allow re-entry after a period of time, and you're going to want to say like 30 days or 14 days. There used to be a filter right here where you would add on, but now they've actually added it in here, which honestly I think is better. So those are the main filters you're going to want to have in the abandoned checkout flow. Now let's jump back here and just talk about the actual content strategy here for a minute. Where most brands go wrong is typically their abandoned cart is either too short, it's too boring, or it just doesn't hit on real objections. Oftentimes what I see is like something like, hey, email 1 is, did you forget something? Email 2 is your cart misses you. And email 3 is, do you want 10% off, 20% off, 30% off? Oftentimes brands and agencies actually start with like a discount too on the first one. So it's like, forget something, do you want 10% off or that type of thing? And then the discount just gets progressively deeper. Why this is an issue is because you're kind of ignoring where people are at in their customer journey, which kind of leads me to this slide. So what's really important when you're building out any flow or doing any sort of marketing is just determining where people are at in their customer journey. So if someone has initiated checkout, they've made it to that final checkout page, maybe they've even added their credit card in, but they just didn't hit pay now. If someone has made it that far, they know what they want for sure. Like they know they want that thing, but they may not trust you. They might have questions. They might think what you sell is expensive. They might be uncertain about something. They might have issues with your shipping time or shipping cost or something to do with shipping as well, depending on the brand and depending on if that is actually a barrier for you. You got to understand where people are at, and those are the objections that they're probably having if they've hit the checkout page. So what we want to do then is we want to curate emails and we want to create a sequence that addresses these different objections. Now these are going to change kind of depending on your brand and what you're selling, i.e. if you're selling like frozen seafood, that's going to be different objections than if you're selling like clothing, for example, right? So what we usually start with is just a quick reminder. That objection is almost universal, right? Start with a quick reminder. What we're going to do is split test a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, and 4 hour time delay. If you don't have a ton of traffic, just start with like a 30-minute versus a 2 hour. If you have a higher AOV item, usually you're going to want to lean towards the latter end of this. Like usually a longer delay might be better because they have a longer buying cycle. The primary objection here that we're going to handle is just they got distracted. It's pretty simple, but it is so common, right? I know myself, like I'll be browsing something and I'll be like, oh, I'll get distracted, or I'm just like, oh, not right now or whatever. The amount of times that you can win people back and get them to purchase just by reminding them is staggering, right? What we want to do is create a simple direct subject line. We want to basically show the abandoned cart items, right? Like in this email, you can see like you've got great taste. These guys are selling soup. We have our dynamic product right here. And then we've got 2 CTAs, right? It's very, very clear. And then like I said, clear call to action there. And we don't want to have a discount yet. Now, email 2 is where we're going to handle another objection here. This is going to be the social proof and benefits. Now, usually the timing here is 24 to 22 hours after that first email, kind of just depending on the time delay that you have on the first one. The primary objection that we want to handle here is trust. So we want to focus on product benefits. We want to include customer reviews. We want to address common objections. Again, if this is going to vary depending on what you're selling, right? Like for this product, you might be combating disbelief in efficacy. Like, does this thing actually work, right? If you're selling frozen, like the example that I had before, if you're selling like frozen seafood, well, one of my questions is like, does it arrive frozen? Like, is it going to be safe? Is it going to be okay? Or is it going to be thawed out? Like, what's the situation there, right? How quickly does it ship? So addressing common objections that you might have that are a little bit more niche specific, highlighting USPs. So highlighting anything else that we might be able to do to reduce some of those barriers. So if it's free shipping, if it's information about returns, if it's a guarantee that you guys might have, and then introducing other trust signals. Email 3 is for handling other objections here. So again, we want to make sure that we're handling one objection, one core objection per email. That doesn't mean that's the only thing you could talk about in the entire email, but that should be the main thing that you're really focusing on, right? So the timing on this email is going to be 1 day later. The objection, again, is going to vary depending on your brand. Oftentimes we'll go heavy on UGC. We might do like reviews. We might highlight product specific benefits. We might address deeper objections that people might have, or we might create urgency here if there's real urgency with the products that we're selling. The next one is going to be our first intro to a discount. This is usually going to be a 1 to 2 day time delay. Again, depending on the buying cycle that you have with your products. The primary objection here is price. This is what we're trying to deal with. So what we're doing is we're giving a discount. For the example here on the right, you can see one more chance at 15% off. Claim my 15% off. That is it, right? It's got the code. It's got all of that information right in the header. It's got the CTA. It's got our dynamic product block, and then it's got the CTA here as well. We also added a why it works here as well. So some benefits and like, again, handling some other objections and a final CTA here. So again, usually we're going to want to send this to only non-purchasers, right? If purchasers are getting this, like, or purchasers are in this funnel, we don't really want them to get a discount because they've already purchased and they're coming back because they like the product, right? Email 5. Now, this is where things can get really interesting. Usually our benchmark and what we look for if we're going to like add on more emails to a flow is our placed order rate above 1%. If your placed order rate on email 4 is above 1%, sometimes we'll get like 2 or 3%. That's great. Keep going, right? Add on email 5, add on email 6, add on email 7, email 8, email 9, whatever it is. Now, don't repeat the same thing. But if there's other objections or if there's other ways that you might be able to get people through the door just by giving, like, you know, for example, with one of our clients, they sell a relatively low value product. However, sometimes the objection is just like, will it work for me? If you can give people a trial, if you can give people a smaller version, if you have like a downsell, if you want to go steeper on discounts, you can do that too. If you have other objections, or if you have like a crazy expensive product, like if you're selling $2, $3, $5, $10, $20,000 items, then yeah, maybe you want to draw this out a little bit longer and hit on different objections people have and create a very intentional sequence, right? The questions you're going to want to ask yourself are like, hey, why did they abandon? And what things might still be preventing people from buying despite giving them 1, 2, 3, 4 different emails already and giving them a discount, right? So this is really what we want to handle in emails 5+. So just switching back to this screen here, a lot of the things that I see brands get wrong are with filters, either with filters or with triggers, or even with time delays. Most of the time, a 4-hour time delay is way too long. We want to hit people up very quickly, right? Usually it's 30 minutes during a sale period or a really busy period or Black Friday, Cyber Monday. We'll actually decrease that. So maybe we'll do like a 15-minute and a 45-minute, depending on what we've tested in the past and depending on the brand and what's worked in the past. So that would be the first thing. It's just making sure your time delays are set up properly, making sure your triggers are set up properly. And the other thing here that I think a lot of brands miss out on is like there's an opportunity here, especially if you sell a wide variety of different products, there's an opportunity to segment down and talk about the specific benefits, the specific objections, like really anything that can kind of like further segment people down. Now, you got to be careful with this, but there is a really great opportunity here to, for example, if like one of our clients sells $2,000 products and like $75 products, right? The different objections that people are having for a $2,000 product versus a $75 product are wildly different, and the products themselves are wildly different. So what we want to do is curate based off of that. Now, depending on how much traffic you're getting, it may or may not make sense, but it can be really powerful. So how you end up doing that is you can just filter based off of, what someone has done. So maybe they have initiated checkout or checkout started. So you could actually break this down and add a bunch of different conditions here, depending on what you're selling. For example, you could go in and be like, hey, what someone has done, they have initiated checkout, or they have placed an order where the value is, let's see, this is a test account, so it might not actually show the value in here, but you can actually set this up so it triggers only for certain values. You could go through profile filters, or you can actually add it as a trigger filter as well. And what a trigger filter will do is, like, if you go in here, it will only trigger for those certain people. So you could say like value is greater than 100 or 1,000 or whatever it is, right? And then what you want to do is you want to save that and then go back and look at preview. I'm going to exit that preview just so you don't see all those emails, but essentially you can preview that, take a look, see if it looks okay, see who would make it into that flow and who would not make it into that flow based off of the trigger split or trigger conditions that you've created, right? So it's really, really cool. You can do a whole ton of different things here. As you're building this out, what I would recommend doing is also, like, number one, keeping SMS and email separate, like not in here. I would just build out separate flows, to be honest. It just makes data a little bit cleaner. And then what I would do is just test different objections, test different offers, test the order of things as well, right? The order that I've given you is what we found works time and time again. However, every brand is a little bit different. So it's worthwhile to test out different things just to see, like, hey, maybe this might work better for your brand or for your client. Now, shifting back here, kind of what I was talking about is like, how can we make it better? Well, we can add conditional splits on cart value. We could add conditional splits on product, on category, on collection, but you can also categorize this and split people based off of zero-party data. So like, what are people's desired outcomes? For example, you have a one product store. If you have a one product store, but maybe that one product has multiple different use cases and multiple different benefits, you might have 3 different categories of people who are searching for a product. And if you speak to each one of them individually and handle those specific objections and speak to them based off of you solving that specific problem that they're experiencing, there's going to be a much higher probability that they're going to purchase, right? So if you can speak directly to those pain points and the desires that people have, it's going to go a long way, right? So that would be a recommendation there as well. If you don't know how to collect zero-party data, watch the pop-up video that I created on YouTube as well. It's very, very detailed. So again, the biggest testing opportunities here are going to be 1, subject lines. 2 is going to be send times and time delays. 3 is actually going to be email content and different objections that people have. And then 4 is going to be discounting strategies. You can test all of these different things. Again, they're going to vary depending on your brand. Now, just before you click away, these are some of the things that you really do not want to miss. The first thing is make sure that your smart sending is off. Please do not use it for this flow. It's not all that smart. The second is keep copy concise and just focused. You shouldn't have paragraph after paragraph for an abandoned checkout email. It should be very, very quick to the point. Hey, you forgot something. Hey, don't forget about this thing. Hey, whatever, right? Keep it super concise and make sure that you're A/B testing, because there's a lot of opportunity to improve things. And this should be like number 1 or number 2 highest revenue that you produce across flows. The common mistakes that I see is, number 1, like I said, flows are just too short. 2 is over relying on discounts. Like if you start off with a 10% off, that's not a great thing to do, because you're dealing with a pricing objection which costs you money without dealing with the other objections, right? So we want to start with the other objections that cost you nothing to deal with, and then move on to the ones that will take away from your margin. Third is just generic messaging. That doesn't work all that well either. Think like your cart is lonely type of thing. 4 is for mobile optimization. It's really important as you're looking at those dynamic product blocks that you're optimizing for mobile as well. 5 is going to be lack of segmentation. And then finally is inconsistent branding. So that is your end-to-end guide on how to build an abandoned cart flow on Klaviyo. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to leave them below. And if you did enjoy the video, it helps a lot if you leave a like, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. Thanks so much and have a great day.